Hey everybody, this is Cody and welcome back to Creative Grandma's channel. I'm here today to show you Grandma and I's latest dishcloth pattern. This is called the Super Easy Summertime Dishcloth. And I have 4 beautiful examples to show you today, and we'll go over each one of those in just a minute. This finished dishcloth will measure 10 by 10 inches. And I used Premier Home cotton for 3 of them, and I used Crafter's Secret cotton for this one example here. The end one is color At the Fairgrounds, and this is Hobby Lobby yarn. I just threw that in there because I thought it looked really good. And these other 3 here were made with Premier Home cotton, and you can choose absolutely any color that you want. And we'll leave some links down below in the description if you want to pick up some of this Premier Home cotton. All right, let me show you this first one here. I wanted to let you guys know that the written pattern is available on creativegrandma.net, Grandma's website. And it's also available on Etsy, so if you're a crochet pro, don't need the tutorial, but you want the pattern, it is available there. It's a pretty large size in my opinion. 10 by 10 inches seems like the perfect size. All right, so here's the first one. This is the one made with the Crafter's Secret At the Fairgrounds. This has an absolutely gorgeous look. We don't have any links for this yarn, but you can pick this up at Hobby Lobby. And as usual with every collaboration, I did the center block and Grandma did this really beautiful scallop border around the edge. Looks really nice, especially in white. Here is the yellow one. I tried to go with summer colors, summer themes. So here is the yellow. And then we have the green one, which is probably my second favorite. I really like the rainbow one, but this green one just looks awesome. Hopefully it's showing up nice on camera. And then finally, this last one, the blue one, another gorgeous color. I just hope the colors are coming through on camera. So I did notice something. I went to Premier's website to get links for this yarn, and I noticed that you can't buy single skeins of Premier Home cotton anymore, or at this time. I'm not sure why. You can only buy them in packs of 3. In a pack of 3 for $5, and you can get the solid colors in a pack of 3 for $4. I think this dishcloth turned out really, really nice. So Grandma's going to tell you how to make it. Go ahead, Grandma.
For our project today, I am using the Premier Home cotton. Now, Premier Home cotton comes in 2 different sizes. The solid colors is a larger skein with 131 yards, 120 meters, 2.65 ounces, 75 grams. It's 85% recycled cotton, 15% polyester, and that polyester helps keep those colors look brighter longer. Now, if you're using a specialty color, one of the self-striping or one of the speckled, so if you're using one of the specialty yarns in the smaller ball of yarn, then it's 96 yards, 88 meters, 1.94 ounces, and 55 grams. Now, for this dishcloth, if you're using a solid color by itself, then 1 skein is enough to do the complete dishcloth. If you're using the smaller skein with 96 yards, then it's not enough to put the border on. It's enough to do the main part, but you're not going to have quite enough to finish the dishcloth. So you're going to need 1 skein of the multicolor plus a second skein to add the border on. So if you want to make it in the same color, then you're going to need 2 skeins of the same color, or 1 skein and then an additional skein for the border. If you're using the larger solid color skeins for your dishcloth, then you only need 1 ball of yarn for the dishcloth with the border. So for today's crochet tutorial, I am using the color Yellow Speckle number 4472, and then I'm going to use a little bit of the white for the border, and this is color 38-01. And I'll put a link directly to Premier Home Cotton in the description box underneath the video. You can click that link and look at all the many beautiful colors they have available. You're also going to need a size G6 or 4mm crochet hook. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, and let's get our project started. So we're going to begin and we're going to make the main part of the dishcloth. Now, if you choose, you can make this without a border. It's all up to you. Now, this sample was made by Cody, and Cody crochets a lot tighter than me. So when you're doing this pattern, just check your gauge to make sure what hook size you need. Now, Cody used a size H8 or 5mm, but for me to match his gauge, I had to drop down to a size G6 or 4mm. So it's all up to you. If you crochet like me and you use the larger hook, it's going to be bigger. If you crochet like Cody, then you're going to get the same size if you use that larger hook. So just check your gauge. Your gauge should be 17 stitches equal 4 inches. and 10 rows equal 4 inches. So I have my yellow speckle attached to my hook, and now we're going to begin. So to begin, I want to remind everyone all my crochet tutorials are filmed using USA crochet terms. We're going to begin and we're going to chain 40. You're going to yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, and this creates your first chain. The loop on your hook does not count as a chain. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue until you have 40 chains, and I'll be back and we'll start row 1. I'm back. I have my 40 chains made, and today we're using stitch of the week number 147, the crawler stitch, or what I call the Cody stitch. This is one of his favorite patterns. So let's go ahead and begin row 1. For row 1 will be our base row. Row 2 will be our repeat row for the pattern. We're going to begin in the 4th chain from hook. You're going to skip 1, 2, 3 chains into the 4th chain, insert your hook, and work a single crochet. Then you're going to work a half double crochet, yarn over, insert into that same chain, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You just made a half double crochet. Then you're going to double crochet back into that same chain. Yarn over, insert into the same chain, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So when you look at your work, you're going to have a single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet all into that 4th chain from hook. Now we're going to begin our repeat. You're going to skip the next 2 chains into the next chain, insert your hook, work a single crochet, then work a half double crochet into the same chain, and then work a double crochet back into that same chain. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. Skip the next 2 chains into the next chain, work a single crochet, then half double crochet back into that same chain, and then double crochet back into that same chain. So let's do the repeat one more time together. Skip the next 2 chains into the next chain, work a single crochet, then half double crochet back into that same chain, and then double crochet back into that same chain. And that is the end of the repeat, and you can see how your repeat is forming. So go ahead and continue. You're going to skip 2 chains, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet into the next chain. You're going to repeat that across until you have 3 chains remaining, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. I'm over at the end of row 1. You should have 3 chains remaining. So to end row 1, you're going to skip the next 2 chains, and you're going to half double crochet into that last chain across. Row 1 is finished. This is what your work should look like. You should have a total of 12 3-stitch clusters, and then you're going to have your beginning chain and your ending half double crochet. So again, row 1 is your base row. Row 2 will be your repeat row. So let's go ahead and begin row 2. For row 2, you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going to turn your work. The beginning chain 2 counts as the first half double crochet. You're going to go to your very next stitch, this double crochet, the long stitch, and you're going to work a single crochet into the top of that double crochet, then a half double crochet into the top of the same stitch, and then a double crochet back into that same stitch. So again, when you look at your work, you'll have your beginning chain 2, and then you're going to have a single crochet, half double crochet into that very next double crochet stitch. Now we're ready to begin our repeat. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into the next stitch, you're going to work a single crochet, then work a half double crochet back into that same stitch, and then a double crochet back into that same stitch. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. Skip the next 2 stitches, into the next stitch, work a single crochet, then half double crochet into the same stitch, and then double crochet back into the same stitch. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches, into the next stitch, work a single crochet, half double crochet, and a double crochet all into that same stitch. You're going to repeat that across until you have 3 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the end of row 2. I'm over at the end of row 2. You should have 3 stitches remaining. You're going to have your half double crochet, a single crochet, and then your turning chain. So make sure you do not overlook that turning chain. So if you're new to crocheting, you might want to put a stitch marker in that beginning turning chain and the last stitch made, so you know where your first and last stitch of each row is. So to end this row, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and you're going to work a half double crochet into the top chain of this turning chain. Yarn over, skip 1, 2 stitches, insert into the top of that turning chain, and work your half double crochet. So row 2 is finished, so I'm going to work it one more time with you. So row 3, we're going to work exactly as we done row 2. You're going to begin and you're going to chain 2. You're going to turn your work. You're going to skip this first stitch and into the next stitch, which is that long double crochet stitch. You're going to insert your hook and work a single crochet. Then half double crochet back into that same stitch, and then double crochet back into that same stitch. So we're working 3 stitches in that same stitch. So again, when you look at your work, you're going to have your beginning chain 2. So if you're new to crocheting, put a stitch marker right into the top of that beginning chain 2. Then you're going to have a single crochet, half double crochet into that next stitch. Then you're going to start your repeat. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches, into the next stitch, work a single crochet, then half double crochet back into that same stitch, and then double crochet back into that same stitch. Let's do the repeat again. Skip the next 2 stitches, into the next stitch, work a single crochet, then half double crochet back into that same stitch, and then double crochet back into that same stitch. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. Skip the next 2 stitches, into the next stitch, work a single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet all into that same stitch. Repeat that across until you have 3 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the end of row 3. I'm over at the end of row 3, which we're just repeating row 2 over again, and you should have 3 stitches remaining. Again, 2 stitches, and then you're going to have your turning chain, and this is the one part where new crocheters might miss this turning chain. So make sure you pay close attention and you don't miss that ending chain. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches and into the top chain of that ending turning chain, work a half double crochet. Row 3 is finished, and this is what your work should look like. You're going to have your beginning chain 2, you're going to have 12 sets of 3 clusters going across, and you're going to end with a half double crochet, and that will continue being the same stitch count throughout this design. So now to continue working on your dishcloth, you just want to click back on the video, repeat row 2 20 more times for a total of 23 rows. So again, to continue, if you need additional help, just click back and repeat row 2 20 more times, and I'll meet you at the end of row 23. So I'm over at the end of row 23. This is what our dishcloth should look like so far. Now this also would make a wonderful pot holder if you wanted to make 2 pieces, put the 2 pieces together, and then put the border on. Now if you want to make this into a pot holder, I would suggest using some cotton batting, maybe 2 layers, or get the insulated batting at your craft store and put between the 2 layers for extra protection. But it's all in what you want to do. For this video, I'm just making a dishcloth. So I'm going to go back up. I'm at the end of row 23. So I am done with the yellow speckles. So I'm just going to fasten off. And I like having a longer length to weave in with my yarn needle. I chain 2, 1, 2, pull my hook up, yarn out, grab, pinch, and pull down. So I'm just going to let my ends hang. So now we're ready to begin the border. So we're going to return to the beginning of row 23 because we're already on the right hand side. You just want to return to the beginning chain 2. You're going to join your yarn to your hook, whichever color you prefer for your border, and let's begin round 1 of the border. So I have my white attached to my hook and I just used a double knot. You can use whichever method you prefer to join your yarn to your hook. Now we fastened off over here on the top left on row 23. We're already on the right side, so we're just going to go over to the top right hand corner to that beginning chain 2. Now it's very hard to see that beginning chain 2 because it likes to bend down, and the first stitch you're going to see is the single crochet. Just use your fingers and pull that chain 2 up so you can see that chain 2. You want to go into the very top chain. The first one's hard to see, 1, 2. So go into the top chain, yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook. You're going to chain 1. Now this beginning chain 1 does not count as a stitch. You want to go back into that same chain and you're going to work a single crochet. You're going to skip this next stitch, which is the single crochet, and we're going to be working V stitches in the half double crochet, the center stitch of these 3 stitch clusters. So you're going to skip the single crochet, insert into the half double crochet, the center stitch of that 3 stitch group, work a single crochet. You're going to chain 2. Then you're going to single crochet back into that same stitch. So when you look at your work, your V stitch, your single crochet, chain 2, single crochet should be into the center stitch, the half double crochet of this 3 stitch group. So now we're going to start our repeat. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and into the next half double crochet. You're going to insert your hook, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same half double crochet. So again, when you look at your work, your V stitch of a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet should be right into the center stitch of that 3 stitch group. Let's do it again. Skip the next 2 stitches into the next stitch, insert your hook, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same stitch. And again, when you look at your work, your single crochet, chain 2, single crochet should be in the center stitch of that 3 stitch group. So go ahead and continue. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches into the next stitch, which is a half double crochet, work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Repeat that across until you have 2 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the next corner. I'm over at the first corner of round 1 of our border. This is what your border should look like, nice little scallops across. And when you get to the corner, you're going to have 2 stitches remaining. We're going to skip the next stitch, and into the last stitch, you want to work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that last stitch. Then we're just going to spin our work around, and we're going to start working into our row end stitches. And I know a lot of people have trouble trying to figure out where their row end stitches are. So our first row end stitch, you're going to see it has a little bit of a space right here. So that's our first row end stitch. And then you're going to have your next row end stitch where it almost looks like it's pretty solid. You don't see any spaces. Then you're going to see your next row end stitch with a space. Your next row end stitch is pretty solid. The next row end stitch, so that's how you can tell where your end stitches are. So to begin working down the side, we're going to go right into this first row end stitch, insert underneath and around the post of that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back underneath and around the post of that same stitch. Your corner is made. Now we're ready to begin our repeat. We're going to skip the next row end stitch where it's pretty solid, and you want to go to the next row end stitch where you see that space. Insert underneath and around the post of that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back underneath and around that same stitch. Then you're going to skip the next row end stitch where it's pretty solid, go to the next row end stitch where you see the space, insert underneath and around the post of that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet underneath and around the post of that same stitch. Let's do it one more time together. You're going to skip that next row end stitch where it's solid, and then go to the next row end stitch where you see that space, insert underneath and around that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet underneath and around that same stitch. So go ahead and continue. You're going to skip this next row end stitch, into the next row end stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Repeat that down the length until you have 2 row end stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the next corner. I'm over at my next corner. You're going to have 2 row end stitches remaining. You're going to have that solid row end stitch, and then you're going to have the row end stitch where you have that opening. So to end this side of your dishcloth, you're going to skip that next row end stitch, and into the last row end stitch, you're going to insert underneath and around the post of that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back underneath and around the post of that stitch. Then you're going to swing your work around, and we're going to be working into the chains across the bottom of the foundation chain. So we're going to be working in the first chain, then we're going to skip 2 chains, and we're going to work our single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the next chain, which if you look, it's going to have a bigger opening, and it's going to be at the base of this 3-stitch cluster. So when you're doing these little V stitches, they should always be in the base of these 3-stitch clusters. So let's go ahead and begin working across the bottom of the foundation chain. We're going to insert into the very first chain, insert your hook, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same first chain. Then we're going to start our repeat. We're going to skip the next 2 chains, 1, 2, and into the next chain, insert your hook, make a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same chain. And when you look at your work, you'll notice right below your little V stitch, you're going to see that 3-stitch cluster. Let's do the repeat again. You're going to skip the next 2 chains, into the next chain where you see the 3-stitch cluster, insert your hook into that chain, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same chain. Let's do the repeat again. Skip 1, 2 chains into the next chain where you see the 3 stitches. Insert your hook and work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same chain. So go ahead and continue. Skip the next 2 chains into the next chain, work your single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Repeat that across until you get to your ending turning chain, and I'll meet you at the next corner. I'm over at my next corner. I ended my last repeat in the chain where I have the 3 stitch cluster, and then you're going to have your ending turning chain remaining. So we're just going to swing our work around, and our ending turning chain is going to be the first row end stitch down the length. We're going to insert underneath and around the post of that stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet underneath and back around that same stitch. Then we're going to start working down the length of our dishcloth, and it's going to be reversed on this side. We're going to be skipping the row end stitch with the space, and you're going to go to the next row end stitch where it's more solid. So when you look at your work, you're going to be inserting your hook right into this section between these open spaces. So let's begin the repeat. We're going to skip the next row end stitch where you see the space. You want to insert into the next row end stitch where it's pretty solid, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same row end stitch. Let's do it again. You're going to skip the next row end stitch where there's a space, insert into the next row end stitch where it's pretty solid, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same row end stitch. So let's do the repeat one more time together. You're going to skip the next row end stitch where you have the space, insert into the next row end stitch where it's pretty solid, work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same space. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. Skip the next row end stitch where you have the space, and into the next row end stitch, work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Repeat that down the length until you have 2 row end stitches remaining, and I'll meet you at the next corner. I'm over at my last corner. You should have 2 row end stitches remaining. We're going to skip this next row end stitch where you see the space, and into the next row end stitch, insert your hook. You're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet back into that same row end stitch. Then you're going to chain 2, and you're going to come up and you're going to join in the top of that beginning single crochet, insert under the top 2 loops, yarn over, pull through that stitch, and pull through the loop on your hook. So I am done with the white, I'm done with the border, so we're going to fasten off. Now I already fastened off, so cut a longer length, and then you're just going to chain 2, pull your hook up, yarn out, grab, pinch, and pull down. So I'm going to go ahead, weave in my ends, and I'll be back and I'll show you the finished dishcloth.
So that is it. Your dishcloth should be finished. It should measure 10 by 10 inches. And I just wanted to thank everybody for stopping by, watching today's video and tutorial. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of these free crochet tutorials. Again, the written pattern is available on the website, and that's that. See you next time.